Today we're going to be installing this new Outequip dual mount AC on my 2022 Ford Transit. Now, I was looking for an air conditioner for my van build because we have a dog and we want to be able to leave him in there comfortably for some amount of time. But initially we didn't think we were going to be getting an air conditioner, so I filled the rooftop with solar panels and roof vent, and then we changed our minds and wanted to do an air conditioner for our dog. So I was looking around and it seemed like Outequip had some really efficient units that had good reviews. So initially I was going to order their one that goes on the roof that has a lot of great reviews. And I ordered that one, and then I noticed that they actually had this new dual mount one, which I think just came out a few weeks ago. So I ordered this one because it would perfectly fit on the back door, and I wouldn't have to touch my roof rack setup that I already have all done. So I can keep the 660 watts of solar that I already have, and we can get air conditioning without any compromises. So I already tested out this unit. It pumps out great cold air, so now I'm ready to install it. And I didn't see any other videos on this, and the instructions have some missing details, so I talked with Outequip and they clarified a few things, so I wanted to make this video to make it easier for you when you want to install this thing vertically. This one can also be installed horizontally on the rooftop, and there is a little bit of instructions that come with it for that. I think the install is a little different, so I'm just going to be covering the vertical install. Alright, the first thing that I did was cut the main hole for the unit to go through. Now this isn't the only hole, there's also going to be 6 more that reinforce the unit and keep it against the van. So those still need to be cut. This one I already did in advance, so I already painted this and got it all prepped. I used the Rust-Oleum self-etching primer and then their gloss protective enamel. So all of the holes that I cut, I will cover up with that to prevent rust. Now getting this hole lined up is a little tricky because nothing here is straight to align it to, and you can't trust level because the van isn't always level. So I used this seam here as my level point, and I just measured off of it. So I initially took the measurements of the unit and figured out how far it needs to be in regards to the window. And then I put my tape there and made sure that it was the same distance from this line down here and up here. So once I had this straight line, everything else can be based off of that. So alright, so I got my tape line set up here. This left edge of the tape is where the unit will stop, and I placed this to make sure that the unit fits with inside this window cavity as best as possible. And that's about 4 inches from where the door shifts 90 degrees. So then I used the measurements on the instructions to carve out this hole. I just used a drill bit on all 4 corners, and then I used jigsaw to cut it all out, and just make sure you put tape around and vacuum all that metal shavings up right away, otherwise they can cause rust. Okay, now we gotta take this cover off because the rivet nuts will run through the unit and you need access on the inside. So this just has, I think, 8 screws around the outside, and then this just pops off. One thing that you'll need before you can continue too far on this project are rib nuts. These are M8s, which align with the long bolts that come with the unit. So these aren't included, so make sure you order them, and I would get stainless steel ones since these go on the outside of the van. Now it's time to drill the holes through the van to fit these bolts through to secure it to the van wall. There's 6 of them on each, 3 of them on each side, and it just needs to be big enough to hold a M8 rib nut, which from my research is a 7/16 drill bit. So I'm going to put the unit up. Now to line up the holes here with the van and the main hole that I already drilled, I could use the template and measure based off of it, but I'm just going to dry fit the unit through the main hole, and then I should be able to mark through where I I should drill the holes through these 6 spots. In order to mark the holes on the van where I need to screw through, I have to mark it obviously, but Sharpie doesn't quite fit through the holes, so what I found works best for me right now is my marker, which I use, for marking a spot when you're drilling wood, and this quick stick. You could also use lip gloss or lipstick and just put some on the end so that it will leave some behind. Get a little glob, and then come up here and just mark on the van where I'm gonna need to drill through. There we go. Now I'll do that for all 6 holes. I'm actually gonna just do 5. This one on this bottom corner kind of gets close to the body panel, and I want to keep, I want to prevent drilling any holes past where the window would go. So if I ever needed to replace this unit, I could just install a window here, which I think is also a huge benefit of this unit. So I'm going to do all 5 except this corner. Now that I got my marks on the van, I can come around and just mark them with a Sharpie so it's a little more clear. So right here, just gonna go right there and do that for all of these. All right, I'm gonna drill the first hole here, and I'm gonna vacuum at the same time so I can get all the shavings. Sweet. What I'm actually gonna do is start with a smaller one and then go through with the 7/16 as the final size, just to make drilling through a little easier. A moment of truth. Nice, the grip nut fits perfectly. So first, before I put that in, I need to drill all the holes and then get these painted up. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Start out with 3 layers of the primer. For holes like this, I have spray paint, so I just put it on some cardboard and use a, what's this thing called? Q-tip, and just use that to apply the paint. But if you have normal paint, it's a little bit easier. Alright, now I just gotta repeat that 2 more times with this, and then I usually do 3 or 4 coats with the paint as well, and I'll probably leave that to dry for maybe 6 hours. I've noticed that it stays really soft. If I do it any sooner, the paint just kind of scrapes off as soon as it has anything pushed up against it, so I tend to leave the paint to dry for a pretty long time. While the paint's drying on the door, I can talk about how I'm going to run the wire. So my electrical system is going to be back here against this wheel well, so I just need to get the wire over there, and best option for me seems to be to drill a hole through here, which would lead me straight into this cavity. And I think eventually, there'll be some kind of plate fixed here covering this, like made out of wood or something. So this wire would be completely hidden actually. And then it can run through here, and there's a rubber grommet thing here on the door, and a corresponding one right over here. So I should be able to just run the wire straight through. Now, on my Transit, this door doesn't have anything electrical coming to it, so it didn't come with one of those little hoses that kind of connects the two. But if yours has it, maybe you can run it through there. I have one on this side, but not over here. So I'm just going to make my own and give it enough slack, and I think that should be fine. And then I can run it through here and straight into my electrical system. If you're using the wire that came with the AC unit, the 1/2-inch diameter grommet is the way to go. I got the assorted pack at Harbor Freight, and there's a bunch of these in there. They're the 1/2-inch ones. They fit perfectly around this wire. So I'm going to drill a hole for the positive and negative right around here, and then we'll be able to run those through and pass through the gasket. Okay, and a 3/8 drill bit seems to be the best option for that diameter. Should have done that with a smaller one to start. That's okay. Let's pick up the shavings off. Okay, now I have my wires ran through into the van. I just cut a little slit in both of these rubber grommets and ran them right through. I have the wires individually in protectors, but I think adding one over both is going to make it a little bit more clean. But otherwise, I think this will work really well to hide the wire. Now I'm going to stick on this foam seal around the outside. It came as a square. I cut off these pieces with just a pocket knife so that it fits better. I think for the roof mount, maybe it's better to have the full thing, but for this one, I just cut it down so that it fits around the opening. So we'll just stick that right up. Make sure you wipe down the paint with rubbing alcohol first. Now we have a nice surface for it to seal through. And you can even use these to support it down here. They have a few pieces in there already, but if you need more, now you have some extras. Now when you insert the unit into the wall, all of the cords are nicely routed inside, except for this one. So That's why I left a little bit of a gap on the seal so that it made room for this cable to run through. As you can see right here, I left a little bit of a gap for that wire. Alright, it's actually the next day. I wanted to let the paint cure a little bit longer. I was doing some reading and I think the 6 hours that I mentioned isn't quite long enough. So I already installed 4 of the 5 rib nuts. I figured I would record one of them. So on all of these, I also added JB Weld. So I put the rib nut in the hole, and then I used a toothpick and just coated the diameter, or the circumference, with JB Weld, and then I installed the rib nut. And I read that that prevents it from spinning once it's in there, and it also coats it really well to prevent rust. So that was a last minute decision, but I'll show you installing the last one up at the top. I already added the JB Weld to this one. Looks good. Now we'll just let that cure probably for most of the day, and I'll come back later and screw it all in. Here's a quick look from the inside. As you can see, I just coated around the whole outside with the JB Weld on all of these, and this should prevent any rust in the future, and waterproof it as well, I believe. I let the JB Weld set cure for quite a few hours, so now I want to test fit the foam pieces to see if I need to add any down here so that it lays flat, and then we'll get to putting in the rods. So now that I have the foam seal around the opening on the van, there's a similar gap down here, so I'm going to use, I don't know if I'm going to use this one, which I cut off of the main seal. They also included a bag, and they're actually different material. This one feels squishier and it's a little thicker, so I'm just going to put a few down here so that it sits flat against the van. Now we can get the rods into the van. It came with 4 longer ones and 5 shorter ones, and it doesn't really explain the difference. So I think I'm just going to use the shorter ones where they fit through and just see what works. They're both the same M8 bolts, so. I already lined it up and made sure that my rib nuts were aligned with the holes. So I'm also going to use some of the permanent thread locker inside of all of these. Now there's a short thread and a long thread on all of them. So you want the short thread to go into the van, and then the longer thread will go outside. But adding some of this to each of them is going to make sure that they can't spin out. And this one down here has the biggest gap between the unit and the van, so I'm going to use the longer one on this bottom pole. Okay. And it says on the unit that these just need to be hand tight, so just give them all the best we can do. Okay. Stay. Wow, I'm so thankful that all of these lined up. So, lastly, they included some lock nuts. So we're gonna put some Loctite on these as well and get them on. Just gonna get a few on so it can't run away on me. And then we'll go around and put them all on. We'll want to tighten them in a star-ish pattern so that they're equally torqued. But now it can't jump off the wall. I need to remove one of the foam blobs. It seems to be pushing in too hard against the van. It's all screwed down and this thing is on there real good. I don't have this one attached, but it's no problem. There's barely any flex here. It's not going anywhere. Now to get the faceplate on. There's quite a few different plugs on here, and they all fit in on the circuit board on the back here. One of them is a thermometer, and there's a little spot with the twist tie already installed. When you permanently install this, I guess you can just put that here so that it is right above the grill, it says. Okay, and we'll just need our power and ground here, but all the rest of the cords, I don't really know what you're supposed to do with these. For now, I'll leave them kind of hanging out, but this just slides right over this, and then there are screws. See? There, something like that. Boop. Now we'll just get the cover back on, and we'll be chill almost. Cover's back on. Now let's make it official. Voila. Got a few marks. Scuffs. It's okay. Looks pretty nice. A final walk around from the outside. Looks really slim on that back door. Perfectly fits for my bikes. Not gonna have a problem there. Pretty happy with the look and the fit. You can see just between. Be careful using the foam separators. I ended up taking out the two that I put in the middle of the unit because the back of the van isn't flat. So I think it was pushing in, and then it was deforming the main structure of the AC. And then when I was putting on the cover, it really made it obvious because it didn't line up. So I had to pull those out. Luckily I was able to squeeze them and rip them out, but the ones on the side seem to be okay. I probably could have made these a little thinner by shaving them down. It's pushing into the van metal a little bit, but that's okay. It's got a super solid fit. Even down here is the corner of that I didn't reinforce. There should be a hole right here. Got a perfect gap. It's not even touching the van, just barely. And no movement in the unit. I have no worries there. Super happy with this thing. Got my wire here. Just need to use some butt connectors. I ended up cutting off the lugs that were already attached to the wire that it came with so that I could push them through here. There's lugs on the other side, and I think they give you the hardware to just bolt the two lugs together to connect it, but I already had these 6-gauge butt connectors luckily, so I'll connect these together. And the rest of my power unit box is just wrapping up in the garage, so won't be able to turn it on until I get that put in. So we'll come back once that's all done. Alright, to wrap this up, I've got my electrical system back into a working state. It's still not complete, but enough to turn on the AC, so let's go right ahead with that. I installed the front plate. It has some screws you can attach. I'm going to wait until I have this more finalized before I do any of that, but we can use the remote here that's included to turn it on. has fan speed that you can adjust here on the remote. It has a LED light. Let's see. Oh, this one, wrong button. So a little night light at night if you need, which is kind of cool. Let's see. There's a timer. There's a sleep mode to make it really quiet. There's a turbo mode, which really gets it pumping. And then there's also an eco mode. I looked at my Victron shunt. Let me turn this down. Actually, I'll leave it. You can hear this is what it sounds like on the inside. This is on turbo mode, which is the loudest. Let me step outside. So, this is what it sounds like on the outside with it on turbo mode. Yep. I have to go inside to change it. Okay, now we're on eco mode. Seems to be quieting down quite a bit. Compared to other air conditioners, this thing is actually very quiet. Yeah, eco mode, this is pretty minimal noise. And on the inside, noise is also pretty minimal. The air coming out of it is pretty cold. I don't have a good thermometer to test it with. This is about the best I have, so it's over 90 when I started in the van right now. It's the middle of the summer in Idaho. So we'll see how long it takes to cool down the van. I use my Victron Smart Shunt to check the amperage that this thing pulls in its different modes, and I found it to be pretty accurate with what it says on the website, which is about 50 or so amps on turbo mode and around 30 on eco mode, which is really great for an air conditioner. So I'm all done, and I'm really happy with this thing so far.